Yes, good afternoon, everybody. This is a promotion video series being introduced by India's best judicial coaching institute, that is Pahuja Law Academy. And in this part of the series, the subject matter, which is being taken up today, the subject matter which is being taken up today relates to administrative administrative law. There are altogether, this is administrative law. Administrative. Now, this is the subject matter, administrative law. Administrative law is normally studied under 5 important units. We are taking up the unit number 1. The first unit, that is unit number 1, is being taken up today, and this unit number 1 covers altogether 6 to 7 items of study. 6 to 7 items of study, you see. And kindly see the board. This is unit number 1. The first item under this unit is the concept of state. The first item under this unit is the concept, functions, philosophy, the concept, function, philosophy of the state, concept, function, philosophy of the state. This is the first important item of study. This is the first important item of study, you see. Under this head, the second important item is the importance and meaning. The importance and meaning. Importance and meaning. The importance and meaning of administrative law. The importance and meaning of administrative law in common language. In common language, this is the second item of study. This is the second item of study. The third item under this head, the third item under this head is reasons for the growth, reasons for the growth and development of, reasons for the growth and development of, reasons for the growth and development of administrative law. This is the third important item under this unit number 1, you see. The fourth important item is the important definitions, the important definitions connected to administrative law and the common conclusion, This is the fourth item. I'll speak once again also. This is the fourth item, common conclusion, nature, scope, content. The fifth item, this is the fifth item, and this is related to the sources of admin law. The sources of admin law. And the last subject matter under this unit, the last subject matter under this unit is relationship between administrative law, relationship between admin law and constitutional law So whenever you see, whenever you start with, I mean, this subject matter of administrative law, then of all the 6 important units, the first unit is unit number 1. Now you can see the board once again. Please kindly see the board once again. The heading is administrative law. Then the subheading is unit number 1. And this unit number 1 is subdivided into 6 categories. This unit number 1 is subdivided into 6 categories. The first one is the concept functions and philosophy of the term state. Concept, functions and philosophy of the term state. This is the first item of study, you see. The second one is an importance and meaning of administrative law. Importance and meaning of administrative law in common language. Importance and meaning of administrative law in common language. This is followed by the item number 3. Item number 3 is reasons for the growth and development of administrative law. Reasons for the growth and development of administrative law. The fourth item under the unit is important definitions connected to administrative law and the common conclusion bracket में the nature, scope and content. The nature, scope and content of administrative law. Now this fourth item is followed by the sources of administrative law. And the last item is relationship between administrative law and constitutional law. Relationship between administrative law and constitutional law, you see. So, the moment we start with, this is the diagrammatic, you see. This is the diagrammatic structure of, this is the diagrammatic structure of unit 1. This is the diagrammatic structure of unit 1. So let us start with the item number 1, you see. Item number 1, you see, whenever you take up item number 1, whenever you take up item number 1, first of all, in the beginning, you should, in the beginning, the concept of state is threefold. There is a threefold concept of state, you see. Threefold concept of state. One is the common and the most important. One is the common and the most important statement of Garner. Yani the first one is statement of Garner. The second one is the definition of state under Article 12 of the Constitution. Under Article 12, definition. The second one is definition of the state under Article 12 of the Constitution. So you have to, what I am trying to say, you have to understand the concept of a state in threefold manner, you see. To understand the concept of a state in threefold manner, you see. First, you have to understand the concept of, state in terms of the definition of, the political scientist Garner, you see. The second is the definition of the state, which is also there in the Constitution of India. Definition of the state under Article 12 of the Indian Constitution. This is the second fold concept. Second fold concept, definition of the state under Article 12 of the Constitution. And the last one is, understanding of the state, in terms of, permanent and political executive, you see. In terms of permanent, and political executive, you see. So let us, start with first the concept of state in terms of, the statement of the political scientist Garner, you see. Now, Garner is stated, please kindly, focus on the statement of Garner, you see. Garner is stated that state is a community of persons. State is a community. State is a community of persons, and more or less numerous. State is a community. State is a community of persons. Community of persons more or less numerous. Permanently occupying a definite portion of territory. Permanently occupying a definite portion of territory. Comma, independent or nearly so of external control. Independent or nearly so of external control, comma, and possessing an organized government, to which the great body of inhabitants render habitual obedience. You see. Now, if you see this statement of Garner, the inference is clear. The inference is that state is an association. It is a kind of association. State is an association of human beings. State is an association of human beings whose members are united with the appearance of permanence for achieving certain political ends, you see. एक तो कंक्लूजन ये ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं. दिस इज वन कंक्लूजन विच आई एम ट्राइंग टू ड्रॉ, यू सी, that the state is an association of human beings whose members are considerably united with the appearance of permanence for achieving certain political ends, you see. In other words, it is an association. Which is exclusively meant for attaining certain political ends. It is an association for exclusively meant for attaining political ends, you see. Political ends. तो एक तो इन्फ्रेंस ये निकल रहा है that it is, एक तो इस स्टेटमेंट से, from this statement, the first inference which we draw, you see, from this statement, the first inference which we draw is that the state is an association of is an human association. State is a human association for attaining certain political ends. For attaining certain political ends, you see. एक तो this is the first inference drawn from the statement of the Garner, you see. From the statement of the Garner, you see. Then you have the second inference. Then you draw a second inference. The second inference is connected to the four important elements of the state. The second inference is connected to the four important elements of the state. Four important elements of the state, you see. So in this statement, the four important elements included. Number one is population. This is the first important element of the state, that is population. You see. The second is definite territory. The second is definite territory. The third is existence of government. The third is existence of government. And the last but not least, is the element of sovereignty, you see. So there are, you see, this is the second inference drawn from the statement of Garner, because this statement covers all the essential elements of this statement covers all the essential elements of the state, all the essential elements of the state, that is population, definite territory, existence of government, and the attribute of sovereignty, you see. Now all these four elements, the attribute of sovereignty is the most important, you see. The attribute of sovereignty is the most important, you see. Sovereignty, as I can understand, you see, sovereignty, sovereign or sovereignty is a kind of entity, and which is free from any external or internal control, you see. So एक तो we try to understand the concept of the state. एक तो we try to understand the concept of the state from this angle, you see. That is from the angle of the statement of our political scientist, Garner, you see. Then there is the second animal. The second angle is that this term state is mentioned at two places, you see. This term state is also mentioned at two places in the Constitution of India, you see. One, it is mentioned in Article 2, and the second, it is mentioned in Article 36 of the Constitution. You see, there is a close relationship between. You see, in this connection, it is desirable to note that there is a close relationship between administrative law and constitutional law, you see. So from that angle also, from the angle of constitutional law also, you have to understand the definition of the state, you see. The detailed definition is given in Article 12 of the Indian Constitution. And this definition provided in Article 12 of the Indian Constitution also covers the definition of the state in Article 36 of the Indian Constitution. That you can see in your Bare Act, you see. In Article 12 of the Indian Constitution, it is categorically, stated that the government of India and the government of the state Parliament and the state legislature, Parliament and the state legislature, and the local authorities are self-defined definition of the state. These three authorities or organs, are self-explanatory definition of the state. So these three things are covered under the definition provided in Article 12 of the Indian Constitution, you see. Besides this, there is another term. Besides this, there is another term, that is other authorities. Other authorities are subject to the interpretation of the judiciary. From time to time, the judiciary, perhaps the Supreme Court, especially the Supreme Court, has defined the other, different kinds of instrumentality of the state, which is covered under the definition of the state, So, you have to understand the term state first. In terms of the statement of the Garner, political scientist, in terms of the definition of the state under Article 12 of the Constitution, and in terms of परमानेंट एंड पॉलिटिकल एग्जीक्यूटिव, तो आप जरा सा इसको देखिए, एंड इन टर्म्स ऑफ परमानेंट एंड पॉलिटिकल एग्जीक्यूटिव, and in terms of permanent and political executive, now in terms of permanent and political executive, there are two triangular shape structure. One is permanent executive, and the second is political executive. One is permanent executive and the second is political executive. Permanent executive, it starts with cabinet secretary, that is CS. So at the top of permanent executive, that is cabinet secretary, the highest rank you see. Cabinet secretary is followed by a special secretary. Special secretary is followed by secretary. Secretary is followed by joint secretary. Joint secretary is followed by deputy secretary. So under secretary, and the last is section officer. So you see, there is when you are talking about the administrative officials, you see, the administrative officials and their bureaucratic structure, you see. Administrative officials and their bureaucratic structure is to be studied in seriatim under the heading permanent executive. Permanent executive is term, this is term as permanent executive for the simple reason, you see, that this is, their function is exist for a certain period of time, you see, a fixed period of time, that is up to the age of 60, you see. Whereas political executive, you see, the prime minister, the cabinet rank minister, state minister, independent charge, state minister, and deputy minister. This is known as, this seriatim is covered under the political executive. This seriatim is covered under the political executive, you see, under the political executive, you see. तो अगर हम इस सेंस में इस दो ट्रायंगुलर शेप को अगर लें, अगर इस दो ट्रायंगुलर शेप को लें, तो हम कह सकते हैं, इन कॉमन पैरेलल्स, यू सी, in common parlance it can be said, that state is an abstract term. State abstract state is an abstract term, you see. The action part of state, the action part of state is government, you see. Action part of the state is government, you see. Action part of the state is government, you see. And action part of government, an action part of government is administration. An action part of government is administration. So administrative law is actually concerned and connected to this administration. And जब हम इस वर्ड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के आगे पब्लिक या प्राइवेट लगाते हैं, when a prefix is attached to, the term, when a prefix is attached to the term administration, if you attach a prefix public, तो So public means, and public here means, the whole character of administration changes. This is for the welfare of the people as a whole, you see. This administration has the responsibility for the, conducting the welfare of the people as a whole, you see. Welfare of the people as a whole. Or whenever you, attach a prefix private, the whole, character of administration is changed, you see. So what I am trying to say, and what I am trying to say in this connection, I'm trying to say in this connection is that I'm trying to say that concept of a state has to be understood, you see. Concept of a state has to be understood, and has to be understood under this, threefold manner. Under this threefold manner which I have already explained. Under this threefold manner which I have already explained, you see. Which I have already explained, you see. So, in the light of, in the light of, this concept, in the light of this concept of the state, let us see the functions and philosophy of the state. Let us see the functions and philosophy of the state. The functions of the state are twofold, you see. The functions of the state are twofold: primary functions and secondary functions. Primary functions, include the safeguards and defense of the people. Safeguards and defense, safeguarding and defending, safeguards and defense of the people, and to ensure the maintenance of law and order. This is the primary function of the state. The maintenance of law and order, this is the primary function of the state, you see. The incident in West Bengal, Sandesh Khali, recently, which is in the news, you see. The High Court of Calcutta has taken cognizance, you see. And finally, under the direction of the High Court of Calcutta, you see, the accused have been arrested, you see. The Calcutta police and administration is being questioned, you see. This is the primary function, you see, to defend the people, to safeguard the people, and to ensure maintenance of law and order. Ensure maintenance of law and order. And then we have the secondary function. Secondary function includes the welfare activities of the state. Welfare activities, secondary functions include the welfare activities of the state. Welfare activities of the state. So when you take up the subject matter of welfare, so that is closely related to the directions given welfare activities of the state is closely related to the directions given in Article 38 and 39 of Directive Principles of State Policies. And so the present government, or the present state is characterized as, the present state is characterized as, it is characterized as welfare state, and a state for good governance, you see. Welfare state was established for the first time in Germany by Otto von Bismarck, you see. Established in Germany by Otto von Bismarck, you see. And William Beveridge, Britisher William Beveridge, is known as the father of welfare state, you see. Is known as the father of welfare state, you see. So we can hear on the basis of the concept, functions and philosophy of the state, we can conclude, you see. In common language, we can conclude that here that administrative law is the most outstanding legal development, you see. Administrative law is the most outstanding legal development of 20th century, and in an organized manner, and in common language, administrative law therefore is omnipresent, you see. It is omnipresent, and it touches every aspect of individual from cradle to grave, you see. Touches every aspect of individual from cradle to grave, you see. So administrative law is that part of public law. Now you can, in common language, you can conclude, you see, is that part of public law. So administrative law is that part of public law which describes the nature of the activity, which describes the nature of the activity of the executive department of government in action. Executive Department of Government in action. It may also be termed as the law relating to public administration. फंक्शंस तो आप देख ही रहे ना, इसका फंक्शंस जो है वो प्राइमरी और सेकेंडरी दोनों फंक्शंस. इट हैज टू परफॉर्म ए लार्ज नंबर ऑफ फंक्शंस. Public administration has to perform a large number of functions in the state of good governance, state of welfare philosophy, in course of creating a social order with welfare philosophy. So we can say once again that it may also be termed as the law relating to public administration. administration. As the law relating to public administration, you see, it denotes the portion of national legal system. It denotes means administrative law. It denotes the portion of national legal system which determine portion of national legal system which determine the legal status and liabilities. The legal status and liabilities. The legal status and liabilities of private individuals. Legal status and liabilities of private individuals in their dealing with public officials. 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 In their dealing with public officials, which specifies the procedure, which specifies the procedure by which these rights and liabilities are enforced by the authorities, by which these rights and liabilities are enforced by the public officials, enforced by the public officials, you see, enforced by the public officials. So you see, in common parlance, you see, in common parlance, you go through, in common parlance, you go through, administrative law is that part of public law which describes the nature of activity of the executive department of government, executive department of government in action, you see. अब कई सारे लोगों ने इसको डिफाइन किया है. I mean, there are number of thinkers and philosophers who have defined it. You see. जैसे kindly see the definition of, Ivor Jennings, you see. Ivor Jennings, statement of Ivor Jennings, you see. Statement of Ivor Jennings, you see. Definition term पर हम आ रहे हैं. Statement of Ivor Jennings, you see the statement. So he defines that administrative law is the law. He defines that administrative law is the law. Is the law relating to administration. You see. So this much is now clear. That administrative law is a law relating to administration. Relating to administration. It determines the organization. It determines the organization, powers and duties of, determines the organization, power and duties of administrative authorities, you see. It determines the organization, power and duties of administrative authorities, you see. This statement of Ivor Jennings, mind you, this statement of Ivor Jennings is a widely accepted definition, you see. Is a widely accepted definitions. It's widely accepted definition. The only limitation with this definition is, although it is a widely accepted definition, but the only limitation with this definition is that it does not distinguish administrative law from constitutional law. Does not distinguish administrative law from constitutional law, you see. But the fact remains that administrative law is the law relating to administration, and it determines the organization, power and duties of administrative authorities, you see. So in this way, there is a statement of Wade. In this way, there is a statement of there is a statement of there is a statement of Wade. There is a statement of Wade. There is a statement of Casey Davis. There is a statement of Casey Davis. There is a statement of, Garner also. There is a statement of Garner also. There is a statement of Griffith and Street. Griffith and Street. And there is a statement of MP Jain also. So whenever you touch, whenever you touch the definitional aspect of administrative law, you have to start with Ivor Jennings and followed by the statement of Wade, Casey Davis, Garner, Griffith and Street, and then you have to conclude. The nature and the nature, scope and content of administrative law. So unit 1, you see, unit 1 I have started. This is unit 1, and this is series. This is number 1, first series of promotion of video promotion series, and this is the first item. Unit 1, this is the first item in this series. Now, where you have to understand, the basics of the state, and the basics of the state government and administration, you see. The basics of the state government and administration. The basics of the state government and administration, you see. So what I am trying to say at this stage, that administrative law deals with, therefore, 4 aspects. Administrative law, now this is what you have to write, you see. Administrative law therefore deals with 4 important aspects, you see. Deals with 4 important aspects. Number 1 is that it deals with the composition and powers of those authorities. It deals with the composition and powers of, those authorities. Those authority means administrative authorities. It deals with the composition and powers of those authorities. This is first aspect, you see. Second, it fixes the limits of the power. It fixes the limits. It fixes the limits of the powers of those authorities. Limit of the powers of those authorities. This is the second aspect. The third, it prescribes the procedure to be followed. It prescribes the procedure to be followed. It prescribes the procedure to be followed by these authorities. Procedure to be followed by these authorities in exercising such powers. There has to be some procedure in exercising such powers, you see, by the administrative authorities. So the third aspect of administrative law is that it prescribes the procedure to be followed by these authorities in exercising such powers. You see. And last is it controls these administrative authorities through judicial and other means also. It controls administrative authorities judicial through judicial and other means also. Through judicial and other means also. Through judicial and other means also. So these are the this is what I am trying to say. These are the four important aspects of administrative law. You see, you have to understand what is the state. You have to understand what is the state. You have to understand the concept of a state in terms of, I mean, the statement of political scientists. You have to understand the definition of the state under the constitution. You have to understand I mean, that the action part of the government is state action. The action part of the state is government. You have to understand the action part of the government is administration. You have to understand the functions. You have to understand, I mean, the basic philosophy and in the operation of the state. You have to understand the concept of permanent and political executive. You see, you have to understand, I mean, the common conclusion in common language. You have to understand, I mean, you have to understand the four important aspects of administrative. To understand the four important aspects of administrative law. Four important aspects of. So if you go through, I mean, the different definitions, if you go through the different definitions, you will come to the conclusion of that these are the four important aspects of administrative. So the entire unit 1, you will come across the entire unit 1 or unit 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, etc. You will come across all the units in the series of lecture. You see, what I mean is required on your part is to, I mean, concentrate and focus and write down the important aspects of, I mean, this subject matter. You see, with these words I close my lecture, and we will again meet you, I mean, completing the further series. You see, further series of lecture. Thank you.